Hi, I'm regular me. I want to be a video essayist when I grow up. We're getting tornadoes and you're wrong about Deltarune. Big spoilers for all of Deltarune, even the parts I haven't played yet. So when I first saw the Roaring Knight in Chapter 3 of Deltarune, my immediate, visceral, gut reaction was, holy shit. No, it's Des. It's gotta be Des. No thoughts, head empty, I put my whole ass into it. I made spaghetti tonight. And I ate too much. Why am I lying on the floor? I am God's favorite jester. So after the scene in the Holiday family home, I was starting to think, oh, maybe Carol's the knight, because the signs are just everywhere. And I had to sit and reconcile those two thoughts before I realized, oh, damn, lots of people are going to think Carol's the knight, aren't they? And since I just saw a video dissecting the reasons why the knight can't be Des, I thought I'd go ahead and do the thing I said I was not going to do and make a response video. This is not meant as a call out or to start beef or anything. The video is very good. You should go watch it. I'll put a link in the description. It's just that I had this theory already cooked up and written down, and WizTail gave me the perfect opportunity, dare I say primal need, to put it to YouTube. Here goes. Point 1. She owns a katana. When we are in the Holiday family home, we notice a big sword on the wall in the kitchen, and Noelle informed us that it is in fact her mother's sword, and it is used for cutting fruitcake, which I don't think is a Rudy Sucks joke as much as it is a fruitcake is very hard joke. If we know how to explore around as the heart, we can also find a second katana by her bedside. These two things are pretty suspicious. It's not every mayor of a town who owns a freaking katana. The lima bean guy in her office says she attacked his briefcase with a sword. That guy sucks so much. I want to get past him to that door! And of course, what does the knight use for a weapon? Big sword. Counterpoint, we see two swords, which means she's probably collecting them, and she collects a lot of other odd things. There's the mechanical Santas that come in several different sizes. There's the pile of heart-shaped pillows that Chris used to be really weird about. That's not even a Christmas thing. As much as the family is Christmas energy, she's not focused completely on Christmas. I think she just collects swords. Point 2. Chris is in touch with someone dark and sinister. So without us, the soul within themselves, we get to watch Chris in a one-sided conversation over their phone with someone whose word bubbles are black and jagged, really weird, that distinctly feels like it's probably the knight because we haven't seen anybody else who talks that way. At some point, Chris tells them what's going on. They say they're going to be right there, and then 2 seconds later, Carol shows up. Smoking gun. You know, it can't be any clearer than that. Cause and effect. Furthermore, just to drive home the point, she says something to Chris right before the scene ends that suggests she was responding to the message. Open and shut case. Counterpoint, nothing about the word bubble says that really is the knight. There's a lot that we don't know about Deltarune still, and in fact, Chapter 3 really showed us just how much we don't know. After Chapter 2, half the internet was convinced that Chris was the knight, but it wasn't until Susie opened a fountain that we realized, or at least were reminded, oh hey, wait, Chris isn't unique because they can open dark fountains. It's just a Lightner thing. But it's details like that that we don't necessarily get from the get-go. We don't know what this dark entity is. Yes, it's probably the knight. No, it doesn't have to be the knight. Alternatively, it is the knight, and the fact that Carol showed up right then is a severe coincidence because Carol Holiday is being set up so that we think she's the knight. It's very clear that as much of a controlling bitch as she is, as much as I want to punt her face in for hurting my gal Noelle, she has a soft spot for Chris. I mean, their families used to be close. It makes sense that she would maybe still harbor lingering kind feelings toward the dreamer's youngest child. It's only her own daughter who she expects perfect grades or being straight or whatever from. And furthermore, the words on the phone just said, I'll be there. It wasn't specified. Where is there? Obviously where Chris is, right? Right? Maybe not. The next place we see the knight is in the church, and that's the next place that Chris goes. It's very possible that's what the voice was talking about. Point 3, she's a frosty bitch and we instantly hate her. Carol has been set up over the last 3 chapters as just the worst person. We know she's mean to Noelle. We know she's a stuck-up, controlling asshole. I already said I want to punch her in the face. She's just the worst. Furthermore, someone literally says the temperature drops when she enters the room, suggesting, I don't know, maybe Noelle inherited her ability to use cold magic from her mother, whether or not her mother actually knows how to use it or not. Counterpoint, come on, it's so obvious the worst person you know is actually the worst person you know. Come on, it's too obvious. We're being set up. Toby's not that straightforward with this shit. Further points that I didn't continue to number. If the knight is someone wearing armor, the antlers could just be part of the helmet regardless of who it is. If not, it could just be some sort of manifestation of a dark form. The knight seems to only be somewhat connected to who they might have been. I think that, again, Carol's apparent fondness for Chris would mean that she would not be opposing them. For all that, the knight does in fact show Chris some weird kind of respect at the end of the battle if you last long enough. But Carol's not the only person who would do that. Des was also friends with Chris. So if she's been corrupted, it's very possible that being nice to Chris is not in the forefront of her mind, hence the battle and all of that. But once she's had some sense knocked into her, or some time to focus on the situation, she can show some consideration for an old friend, or the sibling of a boyfriend or something. I don't freaking know. Furthermore, Knight is left-handed, so is Des. When they summon the sword, it looks like a bat, and we know Des had a bat. There's all kinds of discussion about leitmotifs. I don't know anything about that. You can look up somebody else's video. I'm sure you'll find out a bunch. And of course, there's something to be said for the fact that the knight doesn't actually have to be anyone we know. Technically, we haven't seen Des, but you know what I mean. We know about her. It would actually be very cool if it meant we still got a cool story for what happened to Des. Like, she doesn't have to be the knight for this to narratively make sense. Now, one counterpoint to all of this is that when Carol is talking to Chris, she says, "You are always welcome here wherever you want," and the "you" is big and bold and in red, which means she's talking to us. She knows about the soul. What does this mean? I have no idea. And just because she can do it, again, we don't know a lot of stuff. This doesn't necessarily mean that she's the knight. Funnily enough, this wasn't brought up in that video that I'm talking about. If it had been, the argument would have been watertight. Wiztail had a great theory, in fact, about Des perhaps having been linked to some sort of object, and that object is what is the knight now. And my own theory is actually that her mind is trapped in the dark beyond dark, and that's all the weird dialogue that we can find in the game's code, and the knight is maybe just her body, and I think those two could dovetail and be very similar, and that would be very cool. That would be another version of the knight isn't actually anybody we know theory. But that's all I had about this. I felt very strongly about it, and I wanted to do a say something and maybe do a video essay. I'm sure as fuck not doing one laying on the floor ever again. Thank you to all of my not patrons, because I don't have a Patreon. Thank you to you for watching this. Thank you to Wiztail and all the other people who've been making Deltarune video essays that I have been consuming over the last week like a starving person. I'm gonna go eat more spaghetti. Bye. Am I shaking?